Delta Force. Isn't that the sweaty game that's full of cheaters 24/7 to the point where you don't even get a single legitimate game? No, well, a little bit on the sweaty part. To me, Delta Force is like this perfect hybrid of what an extraction shooter is and what makes a really good competitive game. In the most broad terms, the best way to describe this game to someone who's looking through the window is that it has the concept and idea of Tarkov in the extraction aspect. It has the movement and the shooting style of like Call of Duty with the jump peeking, and then it has the gameplay and abilities like Apex Legends, where every character has its own unique abilities. And what I mean by gameplay is once you start to get to the harder maps and you start playing the harder difficulties with the sweatier players, the gameplay kind of shifts into this style where you kind of always have to prioritize your positioning, be wary of third parties or be the third partier, and always making sure that you and your team are ready to take the extract when needed. In the background, there are clips of me when I first started playing the game to when I most recently started playing, and these clips are progressive. So at the beginning of the video, I'm going to be dying a lot. And then as the video gets further and further, you can see my movement, my aim, and my decision making all start to improve. But I will say, in this game, playing as a trio where all of you use your utility perfectly, you execute your timings brilliantly, and you kill another team without a scratch, this is the same feeling as executing B-side on Inferno with smokes, mollies, flashes versus silver fours. What I'm trying to get at here is like utility usage and positioning wins you way more fights than aiming in this game. But first, my name is Chob, and I come from a competitive background pretty much my whole life. I started out on CS with around 6,000 hours and then made the competitive switch to Valorant for a few thousand hours. And then I finally made the transition to stream full time on GTA 5 roleplay. However, during this time, I was still playing a lot of FPS games and competitive games in general. I just hit 100 hours on Delta Force, and I will give you guys my honest thoughts on the game and some advice for newer players who are just starting out. Also, please bear in mind that my time on Delta Force, a lot of it was playing with friends who have thousands of hours on the game and are already very experienced and made the learning process hundreds of times easier than the average player would. So please kind of take my opinions with a pinch of salt and just bear in mind it is not the true solo player experience. However, I did put some time into queuing this game solo. Now, the first thing I noticed when I first launched the game is how it kind of looked and felt like Tarkov. And what I mean by that is when you come to your stash, kind of has the same layout as Tarkov, as where, you can kind of play Tetris, has the same kind of gunsmith where you can come and modify a weapon and you can choose every single specific attachment you want. And everything kind of has that same feeling. However, this game does something really, really different, and it does it something very easy. And that is a color coding system. Everything is color coded, and it's done the same way as an MMORPG. So you have your grays, you have your greens, you have your blues, purples, and golds. And lastly, you have your reds. This system makes everything 100 times easier. Because instead of having to look at a spreadsheet on your second monitor to see what ammo penetrates through what armor, you just look at the color coding. It genuinely just made my life so simple and makes understanding this game a little bit easier. This also is the same for every item across the board, whether it's heals, whether it's painkillers, and whether it's just regular collectible items in the game that you find across the maps. The AI in this game are pretty simple. They kind of feel like stormtroopers, unless you're dealing with the boss. In this clip, I got locked on by the boss and got instantly shredded. So you got to be kind of careful of when you pick the bosses. Bosses will always spawn in the same place and they have unique voice lines. Another key note to mention is you'll see a lot of players who kind of run up to scavs and knife them. With the default knife, you can stab a scav in the head twice and kill him. We do this for obvious reasons, keep ourselves silent and keep the stealth. You never want people to really know where you are, so you should always try to prioritize knife in a scav. However, you might find it's a little bit harder to do with machine gunners and flamethrowers, as not only do they take extra stabs, but they also don't let you close the distance as easy, and they start shooting you a lot sooner than regular scavs. So the best way to counter them is to use some sort of smoke or flash, or to kind of hide around a corner until they run into you. The first thing you should prioritize when playing this game is understanding the maps. This is going to be your strongest weapon. Understanding where all the spawns are, learning the timings, knowing when you can beat another team to an angle where you can hold them cross a bridge, for example, try to catch them off guard. This game is a lot about timings. For example, in the clip that you're watching, me and my team just spawned on this side of the map, knowing that there could be an enemy team who also just spawned across the water. We decide to go check, we spot them, so we snipe them. This is something that both parties have to be aware of and both parties have to look out for. This was by far the hardest part for me at the beginning, learning that when you spawn in, what is the best route to take to either A, avoid getting held on spawn, or B, to beat the other players to the hot zone, the center of the map. This also kind of goes hand in hand with like angles. In this game, there are a lot of angles. People can be on ledges, standing on boxes, laying down in between two windows, looking through a pole that's next to a window, etc, etc. This, you only learn just by getting punished. I have died so many times to angles that it's just part of the process of the game. My eureka moment in this game was learning the jiggle peek. As you can see, this is a peek where you lean out, you peek, and then you lean back in, and then you kind of keep doing this over and over again. It takes some practice, but when you get the hang of it, it kind of becomes like second nature to you. This is the best thing that you can start doing early on when you start peeking into rooms and peeking in corridors and peeking hallways, because it makes you an incredibly hard shot for your opponent, but it also allows you to see and clear all the angles that you would never have known existed. The thing I loved the most about this game when I first started playing was the ability to be able to move people's bodies, which turn into boxes after you kill them. I cannot tell you the amount of times I played a game like Tarkov or Arc Raiders and died because I'm stood in the open, crouching down, looting a body on the floor. To have the ability to move someone's body into cover and loot them alone makes this game stand out so much from any other extraction shooter that I've ever played, and this is my biggest plus. Learning sound cues plays a huge part in this game, and this one takes a little bit of time, but I can try and make it easier. There are 3 different types of sound. The first type of sound you'll hear is when somebody's on your level and running on the same floor as you next to you. The next is you will hear steps and jumping and noise that sounds hollow or shallow or echoey is the best way to describe it. These are going to be people or scavs that are below you. Now, you're going to hear sounds and noises that are very deep in bass. They sound more bassy and deeper. These are going to be people that are above you. The sound in this game is very clear and it's very precise. And it's honestly the one thing that I noticed about this game that stands out from other extraction shooters. You can pretty much hear everything. Everything. And this also accounts for range. That you need to be able to distinguish what type of sound you are hearing with those different basses and echoes. This takes a little bit of time, but once you start to understand this, you'll have a good understanding of where people are always going to be. The next main point I want to talk about is playing solo in this game. For me, was probably the most miserable part about this game. The way that the game is and the way the game is designed, it's about sticking together, and playing together is always going to be your key to winning. My solo experience sucked. It was horrible. You would join a lobby, you would have one of your teammates just run off into the middle of nowhere because they're trying to loot reds and trying to put it in a safe box so you can just leave and extract with money, and then it's just 2 of you left and you're trying to fight teams of 3 as a duo. It's miserable. The timings are going to be off with your teammates, you're going to throw abilities, they're not going to throw abilities, and it's really hard. Only thing for this is I would say to use a squad up option, When you come here to the menu, there's a little option here that says squad up. You can look for people who are also looking for teammates. Try and find someone who has a microphone and tries to speak, and also actually tries to play the game properly. If you find someone like that, I would highly recommend you add them and try to keep playing with them. This is something you won't regret. This game requires a lot of teamwork, and some people don't really play for the teamwork. They kind of just play for themselves. As of this video, there are 13 operators, each with 3 abilities, not including their passive. This means there are 39 abilities on the game that you need to be aware of. This takes time. Trust me, this is something that's going to take you a lot of time. Each ability has a unique sound cue, has a certain cooldown. Learning and understanding every ability, this is just something that takes time. But once you understand it, it helps you avoid taking damage in fights. It helps you outplay other teams. Being able to know what abilities they have used and when their abilities are on cooldown allows you to be able to have the right timing to push them, or have the right timing to use your own abilities to counter theirs. This is something that just takes time. You can't really rush this. You can't really learn this off the go. Everything has a very specific sound cue, and everything has a very specific timing. One thing I want to talk about is the use of ammo in this game. Gold ammo is going to be your strongest weapon. And I recommend you, even at the early levels, to try and use gold ammo. If not gold, at least purple. The gun you use isn't as important as the ammo. I promise you this. Your gun is the tool, but your ammo is the material. You can kill anyone with any gun as long as there is good ammo in there. But you can't kill anyone with a good gun if there's bad ammo. You also want to prioritize keeping your ammo in your safe box, as you can reload from your safe box. If you drag your ammo onto your gun, it will instant reload. Ammo is very expensive in this game. A stack of 60 can cost you up to 120k, sometimes even more. It's not worth losing. You want to pretty much keep your ammo in your safe box, as it's not really punishing to reload either. I hope this video gave you some insight. There's a lot of stuff to talk about in this game, and I don't want to keep this video going on for an hour, so I tried to speak on the most important parts with everything that I learned over the 100 hours, and the things that would most likely be important to help you get successful with 1, learning the game, and 2, successful with extracting. Good luck with your raids, and I'll see you in the next video.